entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Action.
So I think that this new little feature we have, the history of, which is what we've called it.
Yes.
If you do have a better suggestion for a name, please send it to us.
No, I like it because it could be the history of anything.
Exactly. But we had a lot of fun doing it last week. The feedback has been great.
Yeah.
One thing we do want to outline or illustrate or whatever is that we aren't smart. Right.
Yes, but we can read and write.
Right, exactly.
And that's what we do.
Yeah, and we're here to have a good time. We're here for a good time, not a long time.
Well, it's been 3 years. I think it's a long time as far as podcasts go.
Right. So our wine is plentiful. We've already had
Cheers. Cheers at the beginning.
a giant glass. I find that this whole history of is better when we're messy than normal.
Is this why? Because Jenna fully came up with this idea. And is it because we get so drunk together that you're like, we gotta like gain some brain cells back. Let's learn something.
Not quite. It came honestly from the idea that we love watching documentaries and we always talk about them and all this stuff. And I realized today telling my dad about this feature that we were doing is my passion for history comes from my dad. My dad used to always tell me all these stories about, different times and periods. And I always loved hearing like the stuff that we didn't hear in school.
Right. Like the history of cock rings last week.
Yeah. Or like, do you remember being in school where they like lightly mentioned like gladiators were also like sex gods or whatever, and then they just like blow past it?
Yeah, right.
Well, we're here to like look those things up.
Okay.
So, I decided to pick sex in ancient Roman times.
So the way we're doing this is kind of like student and teacher.
And I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I'm nervous.
All week she's like, oh my God, I still have to do my book report.
Yeah. And you know what? I was never good at class presentations. I used to get so nervous in front of the class. So this is why wine is good for this situation.
Well, it's just me and our hundreds of listeners.
Right. Hundreds, thousands.
Thousands, right?
Hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum.
So I don't even know what I'm going to do next week. But anyway, we're getting ahead. Today,
yeah, exactly.
I'm so excited for this because I know the topic, but I don't know any of the details really that you're going to talk about.
Right.
And I know there's probably a lot. So why don't you share the theme?
Okay. So sex in ancient Rome, like it definitely is not famed for the heart. Like,
sex in ancient Rome.
Ancient Roman times.
You didn't announce it. That's
I'm not the announcey one. I don't do that. Sex in ancient Roman times.
Thank you.
I feel like the genie from Aladdin when I say it like that.
The reason I'm so excited about this is because this is the culture that we've talked about a lot. You could have sex with men.
Well, this is the basis for civilization.
Okay. I'm just going to shut up. This is why I'm the student.
But you know what I mean? This is before Christ or Christ.
Okay, we're not going down that road. Yeah.
But it is. This is why I think I picked it, because you weren't too sure about the before Christ, after Christ thing. Well, this was before Jesus, like 750 years before Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not going to lie. Sex in ancient Roman times, it was like dirty. It was freaky. It was morally wrong in so many ways, but it did actually help shape like laws and that went on in Roman times, which has in turn passed on down to even us. Actually, like back then, 750 BC, there was one trial where they tried a man for rape. Like all the way back then. There was also like gender identity disorders, or people wanting sex changes back then was a thing, so when people argue with you that like you're not born with it, like blah blah blah, bullshit. There has to have been born with it, because this is happening before mania could influence and queer as folk could influence and whatever. Do you know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean, and that's a good point. You know what I wonder though about these freaky cultures, and we haven't even gotten into it, but you know how we talk about whether it's cock rings or magic mushrooms or this, there's always a period where they pull it back and they're like, no, this isn't cool anymore. I wonder, because now we're in such modern times where sex, anything goes, are we getting towards one of those periods again where we're all going to tighten our anuses and everything's going to become illegal?
Not right now. I think we could be on the verge of a sexual revolution again.
Hey.
That's the booze talking.
Yeah, it's like, what does that even mean? But okay,
Also,
I'm here for it.
Before I keep going, I feel like Princess Leia right now.
Yeah, you do look a bit like Princess Leia. Only you don't have those tight ass buns. You got
No,
a
but if I
pony.
do it like this,
Yeah.
I feel like I look 100% like even my sleeves. I've
I've
never even watched a Star Wars in my life. Okay.
Yeah, that used to get Gord very upset.
I know. Or also another note before I launch into this, these are 8 names from ancient like Latin fucking names and shit. So whatever my pronunciations are, just spare me, okay?
Make it up in your head.
Yeah, like listen to this with forgiveness in your heart. Okay. So let's just start with a little background about how sex was viewed after Rome was founded in 753 before C. Oh,
Big C. How you doing, bud?
Before Christ. Okay. So sex back then, while gratifying, of course, it was also a duty.
For women.
Right. Men like to display what was called their vir or vir, V-I-R, which means manhood and sexual prowess, while women had to submit by having as many fucking babies as they possibly could pump out.
But does it matter how many men, or it could be the same man?
No, marriage was still like a thing,
okay.
but men could stray off of marriage. Women couldn't. And I'm about to get into that.
Wow.
So like I said, the wife was expected to turn a blind eye to her husband's like philandering, while the man could sleep with who he liked as long as the mistress he was sleeping with was unmarried, or if with a boy, he was over a certain age. Now we've heard a lot about like male intercourse back in those days and
right.
a lot of that. And I think also it could have been because they were just discovering these feelings and expressing these feelings, and there was no someone did it before. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, 750, they had 750 years of before, but I guess then it was cavemen.
But what's also interesting is brothels, prostitutes, and dancing girls were considered fair game, as were older males, as long as you were the man doing the penetrating. If you were the man taking it, no, you were not masculine enough. You were effeminate.
So because with gay probably wasn't a thing back then. It was just
sex. Yeah.
So you weren't gay if you were the top.
Exactly.
Ha ha.
So same sex in ancient Rome was thought to be fine for a man, but same sex between women was condemned.
What?
Yes. So the word lesbian sex often assumed penetration, that there would be like something which was considered a man's work. So those women were shunned for it. And so women adopting this role was said to be manly. So this is what's interesting. The sidebar is the Latin word, because the English language is based off Latin, right?
Okay.
Is it not?
I don't know.
I think so.
It might be. Okay.
But anyways, the Latin word for lesbian women was back in then tribades or tribades or fricatores, like friction.
I was just gonna say, get those scissors, girls.
It meant those that rubbed.
I love that.
Right? Those that rubbed.
I also love how the guys that were the tops weren't gay, because I swear there's a whole bunch of straight boys out there that operate under that same logic.
Exactly.
Now.
But maybe that has to do with the top is always manlier. Like, you know, when gay marriages and couples first were able to be as public and open, like back in the early 90s or whatever, which sounds so fucking barbaric.
Yeah.
But it was like, so who's the boy and who's the girl?
Oh my God, I was asked that many times.
And that's so offensive. They ask it to lesbian women too. Who's the man, who's the woman?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we're both women or we're both men.
Isn't it funny though? Like, and at the time when I was asked that in high school, I loved it, but you know me, but I also didn't think it was inappropriate.
But maybe it's been ingrained into how you think you're supposed to identify yourself as a homosexual.
Maybe, but
I think that's the first time I've ever called you a homosexual.
And I am, baby. But you know,
it's a nice word.
Homosexual. I think of the Framing Britney Spears documentary, and I can relate everything back to Britney Spears. But at the time in the early 2000s, we didn't think these questions she was being asked were inappropriate. Are you a virgin? Hey, Justin, did you fuck her?
And she wasn't the only woman being asked those questions, right?
But you know, none of us, well, at least I can't speak for everyone, but I
remember feeling icky.
Did you?
Yeah, I never was like a girl, like Britney Spears hater or...
Oh,
I just never paid attention to her, like, because I wasn't the music I listened to.
Yeah.
I loved like seeing her style and stuff, you know, the 1-inch zipper jeans and all that lowrider.
Hey, you got the belly button ring.
Exactly. But like, besides that, I wasn't like, ew, she's a slut. I don't ever remember once in my life thinking Britney Spears was a slut. And why are we talking about this right now? This is the history of fucking sex in ancient Roman times.
Well, she did have that killer Pepsi commercial with Pink and Beyonce where they played ancient Romans.
Anyways, so she is a character. She really is. So now we're going to talk about some characters in ancient Roman times. Okay.
Okay.
So first up we have is Augustus. I'm sure you've heard of Augustus. He was actually the first emperor of Rome. I hope that's correct. If Wikipedia serves me right.
Yeah, blame Wikipedia.
At this point, because extramarital sex and stuff had been going on for a while, at this point, it was started to be viewed as like being damaging and rampant, like it is now. Augustus was known to be like a big player as an emperor, but for some reason he had this like all of a sudden like change of heart. And he decided that he was going to start instilling like good old family values on the empire. You know, that was all good and his intentions were right, but he had a big problem. He had a daughter and her daughter's name was Julia, which is my grandma's name. Well, her white name she was given when she came to Canada, but or when
still counts.
She changed her name, yes. And Julia was a freak, like super freaky. It said that she had sex on the exact podium. So I'm thinking Ivanka Trump and Donald Trump right now is what I'm thinking. She had sex on the podium that her father stood on when he was trying to pass this legislation to like have everyone be morally correct and no sex out of marriage and all this stuff. She also seems like someone we would have hung out with.
Okay.
Because it was said that she never took a lover on board unless her boat was full, which means that like she didn't fuck someone until she was already pregnant or something like that. She was always pregnant was basically what it meant.
Her boat being her body.
Yeah, was full.
Wow.
Yeah, her c'est la vie mentality didn't get her far because unfortunately her dad exiled her to a remote island that had no men on it.
That's like my worst nightmare.
That's what I think why everyone has this like interest in like ancient Roman times, because they were so dramatic with their punishments.
You know,
like you can't just like ground her and like, you know, forbid her from going out of the castle unaccompanied. No, you gotta fucking ban her to an island with no men.
Yeah. You know, it gets me how little they cared about their family back then. You hear about this a lot. Like,
well, there was like a lot of incest and stuff, so they did care about their family. We're going to talk about a guy named Nero, and he actually apparently did his mom.
I can't wait to hear about him. You even texted me saying, I'm reading with this Nero guy, and I can't.
We could do a whole episode on Nero. He was a horrible human. But you've heard of the sexy movie Coagula, right?
Yes.
From back, like, it's basically was like one of the first porn type of, not first porns, but you don't know because
I've never heard of it. I've never.
So Coagula was actually an emperor. And so there's this movie from back, I believe it was the 70s or 80s, around that era, where it was so controversial because it was like full fucking sex and orgies everywhere. But it talked about Coagula, and apparently he was like beyond even worse. No way. I think if we're going to go back and cover ancient Roman times again, we start need to break it down by like the worst humans possible.
Okay.
So let's move on to cross-dressing in ancient Roman times.
Wow, I can't believe some of these things were popular in ancient Rome.
Which is why, how can you not accept that these are true?
It's true.
Like feelings, and this is what people really are.
But you want to know something that wasn't popular in ancient Rome? Fast food. Do you know why?
Oh, I feel like this is a really horrible joke.
There was too much grease.
I have a funny fact about Greece coming up. Old ancient Roman Greece.
Hey-o.
Okay, Julius Caesar, you've heard that.
Yes.
Not in the mall where you get your Julius Caesar drink. You know those orange Julius's? Those are bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, those are so good. I remember being stoned as a teenager, getting it, and it was so like frothy, but not. Anyways.
Do you want to know my only memory of Julius Caesar was in the Nintendo game Zelda NES? There was a character named Julius Caesar, and you had to go like ask him for information on where to go next in the game. And that's my connection with Julius Caesar. I don't know anything about the real guy.
Well, he was also an emperor, and
Okay.
a very like well-known historical one. He popularized the rage for celebrity cross-dressing because he was a celebrity at the time.
Sure.
When at the age of 20, he lived the life of a girl in the court of King Nicomedes
Sounds right.
the Fourth, and was later referred to as Queen of Bithynia, every woman's man and every man's woman.
So
every woman's man and every man's woman.
So he was bisexual.
This is you. If girls could have their way with you, you'd be every girl's man and every.
Okay, I'll take it. Hey,
all right.
I'm available.
Yeah. So he like kind of kicked off the cross-dressing. It was more like a acting and role play that, yeah. So then there was Nero. Now we get to Nero. Nero, the bad.
Oh, just to wrap Julius up, one more joke. Do you know what happens when ancient Romans don't take their epilepsy medication?
They Caesar.
They have a Julius Caesar.
You intentionally looked up a bunch of old Roman jokes before we.
I know those are the only two.
Okay.
That's it.
So now we're going to talk about Nero. All right, Nero. He was the 5th Roman emperor. Again, don't quote me on that. According to Wikipedia. The best part is like when I do a Wikipedia search, I don't even like look for other options. I'm just like Wikipedia, quick answer. All right. It comes up in like the search bar. It doesn't even like come up. You don't even have to click the page.
This was 3,000 years ago. Nobody's fact checking. All the copyrights have expired.
Right. Good for you with that quick math.
Was it 3,000? Well, whatever.
Right. So Nero, he was the 5th emperor. He was, like I said earlier, super messed up guy. Seriously, he had deep, deep issues. It's said that he had sex with his mom, like I mentioned. But anyways, one day he was feeling.
But anyways, let's just gloss over that.
I know I didn't look more into that, so unfortunately, I don't have more information on the incest.
Wow.
But this is even more shocking.
Okay.
So one day he's like chilling. He's like, you know what? I feel really guilty. I feel guilty about kicking my pregnant wife to death.
Oh my God.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look for a surrogate who looks just like her because to fill this empty void in my heart.
And she was pregnant?
Yes. So he hosted like auditions and found the surrogate. And the surrogate was someone named Sporus. Sporus was not a woman. Sporus was a young man. Nero had him castrated when they got married, and Sporus joined Nero in bed with another man named, and this is going to ring a bell from math class, Pythagoras.
Didn't ring a bell.
Pythagoras. I feel like it was like Pythagoras rhythm or Pythagoras. Isn't that from like when you deal with shapes? What was that when that class called geometry?
Yeah. Oh, one of those tools is a Pythagoras?
No, Pythagoras was a type of triangle, I think.
Oh.
There's like isosceles. Anyways.
We talk a lot about skipping class, but math is the one I did not go to.
Me too. I failed it a couple times.
Me too. No wonder we're friends.
So Pythagoras would play like the manly role, and Nero and Sporus would be like the little ladies.
Wait a minute. I thought Nero was the king daddy.
Yeah, but he
liked to be the little bitch.
Yes. Well, he was attracted to men, obviously.
Ah.
So Nero, this is how messed up he was too, is he'd also host these parties and he would dress up himself in the skins of like dead exotic animals, like lions and leopards. And he would come out of a ceremonial cage or whatever, and he would mutilate the genitals of a bunch of people that were tied up naked at stakes. So like, I can't believe I did that. But like, so like, and not actually like ripping their genitalia to shred, but like pretending to be an animal feasting in like a sexy, like, I think it might be a sexy way. There might be reports where it wasn't sexy and they were slaves, and unfortunately they were.
Well, because the word mutilate means, not.
Well, they put it in the article. They said quote in quotation.
Mutilate.
Yeah.
So it could be a pretend.
Right.
Let's hope so.
But again, this guy was so dark and had so many own issues of his own that it wouldn't be shocking
if it really was mutilated.
He did do that or send an actual animal in to mutilate.
Oh,
Again, I said this is not pretty.
but look at the things that the public put up with, and even the girls that signed up to be his surrogate. Like, this was what was expected of women, right? Is that you just find a powerful man to be with and to serve. Doesn't matter.
Because it was back in Roman times, it was bad to have girls because girls, they cost money because you always have to supply a dowry with a girl. And they just make babies. They don't go make money.
Yeah, but knowing what we know now, it's like all these bitches didn't care. They probably didn't even think he was hot. They just wanted
It was because it's how they were raised.
Yeah.
They were raised and taught like that's what you do. It's no different than like your mom was raised to be a housewife. No,
yeah.
by your grandmother.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
She was taught to be like education was probably not important. It was
have babies.
Right, exactly. You know?
Yeah.
We are conditioned. So hopefully the kids that our generation produces, or the next one, because now I'm old, the next one, so like my friend's 2-year-old daughter, the kids she produced are like
bra, burn your bra.
Yeah, but speaking of like women too, we're gonna look at an empress now, because it wasn't just the emperors that were freaky deaky.
Okay.
So the empresses that like married emperors. So there was an empress to the emperor named Claudius, sorry. And she was actually dubbed Queen of the Imperial Whores.
Shut up!
I'm going to change your name in my phone and the contact to Queen of Imperial Whores. So whenever you call me, that's what it's going to say.
Or maybe it should be Queen of Peller Estates Whores, because that's the wine we drink.
So this one, you're going to love this story about her.
I just can't believe whores was a word back then.
So her name is... Oh yeah, I think that's like one of like
the
Shakespearean.
Wow,
it was in Shakespeare.
Okay.
Her name was. I think this name is so beautiful, Messalina.
Because it sounds like messy podcast.
I think that's where Melissa comes from.
Messalina.
But I do find that such a pretty name.
It is prettier than Melissa. Sorry, Melissa Lamb.
Okay, so anyways, you're gonna love this story about her. So she was married to the Emperor Claudius. She was said to regularly sneak out of bed while he was sleeping to visit a not so nice, like a grungy dirt McGirt brothel. And she used a working name. She went in and her name was Lishiska.
Sounds black.
Lishiska? That's rude.
I know.
Lishiska, right? Lishiska.
All right.
Anyways, it translates as wolf bitch. Already, I'm like, I'm on board with this.
I like her.
I like her.
Delicious.
So anyway, she apparently would go into these brothels and turn her own tricks at night. And one night she had on record an epic orgy.
Oh, Lishiska.
Wolf bitch.
I like her.
Yeah. So how it happened was she challenged a veteran prostitute that was in that brothel to a 24-hour sex marathon. Right? To see who could have the more clients or whatever.
I'll get the cocaine, honey.
She fucking won. She won with 25 partners, which was 1 client per hour.
Wait, now was she versus a guy or was it another girl?
It was another prostitute.
Oh,
so she walked into that brothel pretending. So she's like high class, like queen of the land, probably dressed. I'm thinking if I was her, dressed down to make yourself look grimy and like Christina Aguilera and dirty. And then, walk to your favorite brothel because you're probably a sex addict and walk up in there and like see one of the veteran hoes and be like, I can do better than you. I can fuck more men than you.
And she did.
Yeah. But that's also making, excuse my language right now because I am getting intoxicated. That's 25 guys in 24 hours.
Yeah, but
that's under an hour. It takes you almost an hour to make a guy come.
But that's what I'm saying. She had a break. It was like, let's say 10 minutes and she has 50 minutes break.
Right.
So if she did it that way.
Yeah. But apparently back then, that's.
So it's not that impressive. Especially if she didn't.
You don't have a vagina. I couldn't imagine having sex with that many guys.
Really? Well, one.
I haven't even slept with half of that guys in my lifetime.
But I thought, and now I'm going back to Sex with Sue, Sunday Night Sex Show. We're dating ourselves, or dating myself. She used to talk about how women could go so much longer than men because unless you guys come, or even when you do, you can still keep going, whereas men get very sensitive.
It's just because women are used to putting up with bullshit all the time. We're used to just being like, okay, yeah,
Keep
get it over
going.
with. Well,
All
I'm
right.
here, but I'm not. I'm also doing my shopping list. But the interesting thing is back then, like these high class women, like you're like, why is an empress? It's like Queen Elizabeth sneaking off to go to a fucking brothel, or Princess Di sneaking off to go to a brothel. Well, because back then these aristocratic women were very partial to what they called a bit rough. So that meant they liked bad boys, which again, like there's so much connection with,
Yeah, who doesn't?
right, with, and so those were like dancers, binmen, and gladiators. Right. What's interesting about the gladiator thing is that so back in ancient Rome, like they didn't bathe with water. No, actually, I think they did it right. And if you think, yeah, so what they did was instead they would take oil, like olive oil or whatever, they'd rub it all over their skin. And then they would take a scraper and they would scrape it off. So it's great, like the dirt and everything, while also moisturizing, which is why I think that part of the world has such beautiful skin.
Because they didn't strip it all away.
Right, exactly. So what would happen was these aristocratic women would watch these gladiators because that was an entertainment thing.
Yeah.
And they would get crushes on them like celebrities. And then they would buy the gladiators' fucking body goo and use that to like coat on them. And
oh, that's disgusting.
Which reminds me of like the panty goo. See, everything correlates back to how we do shit now.
It's like we're the same species.
Oh, I'm preparing myself to say this word name now.
Now, wait, before you go on though, would you ever be interested in wiping that goo on yourself if it was a man you were insanely attracted to?
No.
Like, that's just so gross.
I would totally coat myself in oil and scrape it off, but like coconut oil.
Yeah, me too.
Like clean oil. I actually do that often. But
I've never had a guy, well, you know, I saw a guy on Facebook say,
please don't tell me you're going to tell me a story about how you got goo on, some guy's goo all over you.
No,
and scraped it off.
No. Well, that's happened. Not in a minute. But I saw a Facebook status from a gay guy being like, oh, something. I saw a guy that was so hot, I would like literally eat his shit. Basically was the gist of it. And I just kind of thought,
I think they're just trying too hard to be funny.
Yeah. But like, then you think about that and like, even this goo thing is so disgusting. But every once in a while, somebody comes along where it's like, they're so hot to you that they couldn't do anything.
Do you ever
gross.
do that thing when you see like something so cute, you want to squeeze it and bite it?
Like my dog?
Yeah. Like maybe that's kind of
sort of the thing. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this, but anyway.
Anyways, okay.
All right, carry on.
So we're going on to another extremely awful emperor. This word. I should have put like these people at the top before I got drunk.
We'll stay here all night.
Oligapolis.
Let me try. Where is it? Oh,
it doesn't help that your ghetto tablet has cracks all over the screen.
Oligapolis. Yeah.
He was apparently a very sick individual. He did not discriminate whichever hole whatever went into, if you know what I mean. So he didn't care what holes.
Oh, he liked to have
anything went into. Yes. Oh. He would send out, I feel like this might be you. Although he like was a horrible human. So like not that part, but just the
opinions vary.
His train of thought. He would send out agents to look for men with the largest penises to satisfy his passions.
Wow.
Because the size of the man's junk for him would determine the post he was given. So we live in a government town here in Ottawa, okay? So it'd be like if your dick was big, you'd get a good government job.
We should bring this system back.
Well, is it limp or is it hard?
Hard, always hard. You don't measure limp.
Because you're a grower, not a flower.
That's right, I am.
Yeah. Now, what's interesting here is that he also wanted a sex change. So we're going back to Roman times.
Wow.
We think sex change is just new now. No, he, back before Jesus, again, we're talking about before Jesus.
Yeah.
It was said that he offered huge fortunes to any physician who could give him permanent female genitalia, or in the words of Roman historians, to contrive a woman's vagina in his body by means of an incision, which is exactly
it's a sex change.
Yes. So again, like if you have some bigoted fucking relative who's like, this is not normal, well, shit, It's literally ingrained in how civilization has functioned. People had these feelings before they were exposed to media, or because, all the argument for it is like, it's been put in your head.
Yeah. And the fact that he felt comfortable sharing it, that it's made its way into history books 3,000 years later. So it wasn't like he was hiding it.
Well, I think to them too, back then it was like a thing where I have money, I can do whatever I want. So I'm going to give myself a vagina.
Yeah.
Why you'd want one? I don't know. Because they give me trouble all the time.
Yeah, but exactly. But a man with one, they wouldn't bleed. They wouldn't have pain.
Right.
Well,
no, that's true. No, it's true. Probably some pain.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that's why I said, well.
Let's go back to an Empress again. Now, this Theodora, oh yes, sorry, I forgot about who she was at first. And I was
Theodora.
Like, yes,
that's
Theodora, which is a pretty name.
Not as pretty as
Maleficent
or whatever the last one was. Maleficent?
Messalina. I feel like if we had a baby, that's what they would be called.
Well, it'd have to be now.
Maybe that's what we should call this segment, Messalina.
And then, if we had a baby, her name would be Messalina, and for short, we'd call her Messy.
Right. I don't believe in nicknames, though. Name your kid what you want them to be called.
Oh, yeah, like the Jacob thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Theodora, she was an empress. She loved to get freaky deaky on stage. She wasn't just an empress, she was actually made into virtual sainthood. So she liked to get really freaky on stage, kind of like what whatever did.
Messalina.
Yeah. But she liked to perform mimes.
Okay.
And freaky deaky burlesque. One of her star roles was a character called Leda in Leda and the Swan. She would lie on her back on stage while other actors scattered barley on her cooch. The barley, not like the barley that we make soup with. I'm pretty sure it was like barley still on the stems.
Oh, okay.
The barley was then pecked by geese masquerading as Zeus. So I'm not sure if they were actual geese. I think they were people dressed as geese masquerading as Zeus. Is what I'm thinking. Think of a really deep, dark, weird fucking play.
But when you said that geese Zeus thing, I thought it was like special geese that were like blessed by Zeus, and so like the queen's geese.
No, like Zeus was like a god they prayed to.
I know who Zeus is.
I know, but like not in those times. Like it was an actual person.
Okay. So, but you think it was people dressed up, not like
that's what I'm assuming.
Not like the queen swans.
It sounds like a really fucked up Shakespearean play. When Shakespearean plays were really fucked up.
They're all a little fucked
exactly.
up.
That's what I think this was. So I think it was like people dressed as geese who were dressed as Zeus pecking at her barley on her barley bush. On top of that, also pun intended, fellow actors were then invited to come and have sex with her on stage. All for the sake of art.
Well, I get that, but the barley up, you're not even supposed to have sex in a pool because you shouldn't put.
No, like I think she laid on the ground and the barley was like placed over top of her. Like you place flowers over your crotch. And then the geese came in and pecked. I've obviously put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah.
The geese came in and pecked, and as they were pecking, they got like aroused and fucked her on the stage.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
I would love to go to a live sex show. Would you go? We should go.
Where we could watch in the stands.
You sit like at a theater show and you watch.
As long as it was like artistic and not perverted like Pee Wee Herman shit.
No, it would be like consenting adults, no children like Pee Wee.
Yeah, but as long as there's not people like jacking off. I don't know why. Other people masturbating creeps me out so much.
No, it would have to be like an artistic moment, not a peep show.
Back to Theodora.
Sorry. Yeah.
Back to her. The wonderful thing about her is even though she would like go on stage and act all like a weird geese and like have people fuck her, other than that, like she ended up, like I said, being transformed into virtual sainthood. And she was responsible for, back and then, social reforms protecting women from physical and sexual abuse and discrimination. She was one of the first fucking feminists.
Go Theodora!
Get fucked on the stage and then
get the barley booze.
Fight the man. Mm-hmm. Okay, one last little thing and then we'll be out.
Okay.
Roman brothels. We can't go out without talking about Roman brothels.
Okay.
They always say prostitution is like the oldest business industry or whatever. So I had to look up a little bit of that. So prostitution was fully legal in Rome. Men would also offer their services too. It wasn't just women. that would be the prostitutes. Men would as well.
Sure.
At one point, a census showed that there were 32,000 sex workers operating in the city. And there was road signs, and it's so funny. I saw a picture of it, and I'll put it up on the YouTube video. I hate when I make these promises because it means I actually have to go through the YouTube video and fucking do it. But it's really cool because it's like you're walking, like if you're on Spark Street in Ottawa, it's like cobblestone, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like you walking down the street, and all of a sudden on one of the cobblestones, there's a penis pointing in a certain direction, and then you follow the penises to get there.
See, why did this stuff go out of style? Yeah. I'll never understand.
I think it's because by then I don't think they fully knew writing either. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Well, that's cavemen.
Well, I think that we're headed back in that direction. The amount that we use emojis, you and I text in just emojis sometimes. So it's some crazy.
Actually, also to defeat the language barrier, because back then, like in Roman times, they had huge armies, and they were always like finding new land and conquering it. So you had like people from different areas always coming in and out of your city. So not everyone spoke the same language, not everyone understood it. So what they did was the Roman Empire came up with these tokens that they gave to armies. And on the tokens, again, I will show a picture on YouTube. On the tokens, it's basically like a coin, but instead of Queen Elizabeth's face, it's two people fucking in different positions.
Oh my
God.
So
depending on the position was depending on how valuable it was. Oh, so like if you wanted to like fuck someone doggy style, you needed a doggy style coin. If you wanted to get head, you needed to give him a head. Yeah.
But until like you're in the room privately, then it's like, okay, bitch, like, do whatever you want.
But basically for them, it was like a point and play. Like, because they didn't understand the same language.
Oh,
so it's like, I can go in.
This is what I want.
Here's my coin. This is what I want. And I've already paid for it. It's your token. Like we have tokens at fucking Chuck E. Cheese.
I love that.
Right.
I think that's clever.
And that's the end of my book.
You did it. Well, I, for one, learned a lot. And I think our listeners did too. And this is why we're doing this.
You're getting drunk. I can tell by the empty, vacant look in your eyes.
Because I just think that we provide an education that people wouldn't find elsewhere. Nobody is going to read about this.
Except for when we do post on YouTube, we 100% cannot classify as under educational. It's always comedy.
Well, you have to click not made for kids. Not made for kids.
That too. Yeah, that too.
I'm glad they had that.
I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please let us know. Like, honestly, your opinion means way more to me than it does to Jesse. But it really does mean a lot. And he's like, she's right.
No, I care too a little bit.
Because we're having a lot of fun with this.
And and if there's anything you want us to dive into the history of, let us know. So next week, I've got to come up with something.
I think you need to do the dildo.
The history of the dildo.
They were originally made out of stone.
Well, sounds like that's one for you. You've already researched.
You're not going to pass your fucking homework over to me, bitch. No.
Now we're back in high school. But one thing I want to do, and I don't know next week because this is a bit advanced, but I would love to do an episode on that period when everything got taken away and everybody got super,
But I don't think you can do it on just one period. It happens throughout.
It happened over and over?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, see what I'm saying? Like, is it going to happen again? No, you're right with the sexual revolution, because as soon as COVID's over, once everyone's vaccinated, it's going to be orgies, drugs, parties, and I can't fucking wait.
He's going to be in bed by 9:30. Yeah.
Gotta go.
Cheers. In his grandpa sweater.
Drink it in. It always goes down smooth.